Thank you all for coming week 5. So this is it. This is the last week, which kind of sucks. So join the apprenticeship so I can talk to you guys again every week. But we had a really good question beginning the call, so I'm going to jump right in today. Um, there's though, as always with this course, there are big trigger warnings, but today will probably be quite big ones. So make sure that you are supported around you and approach this as a professional. Um, so the question is, how do we work with rape in clinic? And I do have this, so sexual assault, rape. It's really about meeting the client where they're at, how historic it was, how much they remember, whether it was someone. So if it was someone close to them, there's a lot of betrayal that comes with it, and a lot of confusion a lot of the time, particularly if it's in a relationship already. So marital rape, or sexual assault by someone that they know around them. So we're talking about adults here. Is that right? More adult? Yeah. How much they remember, were they blacked out, all that kind of thing. So we always work from, do we need more understanding or do we need to go into the feeling? So remember that in order to safely feel everything, we need that container of understanding what happened. So then you're able to see the emotion and feel the emotion from a space of perspective rather than being in the trauma still. So first step is always hearing the story as much as they can remember from beginning to end and allowing them to talk. And you'll kind of know about with where they're at by how easily they say what happened to them. So if they say, okay, I was sexually assaulted, this what happened, you know that they've kind of gone through counseling, they've said the story before, but so you don't need to go into too much detail because they've already processed you can kind of tell if they've processed the beginning, the middle, or the end by how open they are in talking about it. Other times they will brush over different bits or justify in different ways, or I can't remember, or block it out, that kind of thing. So in that case, if we're sitting on the couch and still in the counseling phase, I'll jump them up on the table if you're in that position. Otherwise, if you're not a somatic therapist, then you just get them to connect with their body and you can get them to hold here or whatever they need to do to anchor their body and feel held. Sometimes I'll give them a blanket on the couch so that they can kind of curl up and talk about it, depending on how comfortable they are with body work usually. But also, if you not everyone in this cohort is a body worker, that's why I'm kind of giving that option. But if you are a body worker, definitely get them up on the bed, lying down. Big blanket, always, anytime you're doing anything which has made someone feel exposed and vulnerable, put a blanket over them. It's going to make them feel safe and hidden. And something preferably underneath the knees as well, because often the lower back will be a bit sensitive. And then I will go behind their head, hold their head, and just let them talk. Just say, tell me what happened, in as gentle voice as you can. Do you feel comfortable with telling me what happened? Start from the beginning. What happened when you woke up that day? And so you're not jumping straight into the trauma, you're starting to develop like a day process, if that makes sense. So tell me what happened that day. And then that's a nice, easy entrance into, going through the day and the story and whatever happened. And just be silent as possible. Don't try and add in different perspectives yet. Just ask questions until the full story has been told. So you're not trying to go down a tangent, you're not trying to find out other things, you're not trying to get them to really connect with feelings yet. You're just getting them to tell the story and holding them and allowing them to just express what happened to them. So that's that connection, yeah? So we've gone through something really, really scary and we want to connect afterwards. And feel safe and feel held. And, often that's just enough to bring up all the emotion afterwards. I do lots of kind, nurturing kind of head work, body work. And after they've told me, I'll often like stroke their head. And then my process is bringing like what they went through and then adding, so seeing it as a past version of themselves. So I want you to see yourself now as you are now, even if it was like months ago. I want you to see yourself now looking at that version of you that went through that. And I want you to ask her what she needs from you right now, or him. There are definitely a lot of cases of male sexual assault as well. What do they need from you right now? And then you'll kind of know where they're at emotionally in that whole journey of, is this my fault? Self-blame, anger at the other person, and then you can work through those stages. The other important part is with sexual assault is getting to that space of anger, because there's been so much fear and vulnerability. They will often turn that anger inwards rather than feeling safe to it, because they've been overpowered, right? So that anger is not safe to come outward. So tapping into the anger is a really, really important part. And the anger, so that usually you'll go through the fear and the shock and then the next couple of sessions. So you don't go through everything at once. Please don't go through everything at once. You kind of, let's bring this up and then let's wait. Next session, we'll see where that has settled. So in the case of sexual assault, I will have one session and then I'll see them the week after. And I'll say to them before they, when they leave for the first session, I'll say, next time we're going to focus purely on body work. Integrate this back into your body. So we'll do like a big exposure session, emotional session, and then the next one is pure body work. Breathing kindness, just pure kindness, nurture, bringing all that kindness back into their body. So they'll come in, I'll put the blanket, no talking, no counselling beforehand, just come in, put the blanket on. How have you been? How have the dreams been? I always ask them how the dreams been, because they'll do a lot of processing through that. Put on the music, dim the lights, and just pure nurture, and just allow them to fully receive kindness. And then the next session, then we might work more on the emotion, like we'll go into the emotion again, or what questions are still there, what state. Sometimes we leave it there for a few months. We don't really, I always rebook like 2 or 3 weeks afterwards, but we don't always have to jump straight back into dealing with that trauma. Let it settle, let the nervous system integrate it, let things kind of shift and change internally before you don't feel like they came in with that issue 2 sessions ago and so therefore I need to create that tension ongoing, like just kind of see where they're at and what they naturally bring up. So there will be stages, the grief, the fear, and the anger will be somewhere at themselves, at someone else didn't protect them or something else didn't happen to protect them. So once the anger comes out, then they're in a safe place to then report it, if they want to or need to. You can report it historically, so there's no pressure to, and it's a very vulnerable, exposing thing. And to feel like you've been put in a really vulnerable position, question, and then you go into a room, you're questioned by police. And I know the police hate that feeling too, but they've got to get all the details as well. And then putting a charge and then risk being exposed. Again, sometimes they don't know what happened or who it happened with or whatever. So just, I'm here with you for that process if you need to, if you want to. I'm putting it out there to you. They can apply for victim services, which will get them extra counselling and things like that if they want, if they've reported it to the police. And remember again, like if once you've reported to police, then there's a charge, then there's a court process and blah, blah, blah. So no pressure, but I'm just letting you know we're here for you and you can do that if you want to. So usually plant the idea and then they'll come back later at some point and say, yes, I'm ready. Or sometimes they just don't want to be put through the process, which is fine as well. And then after that, after they've kind of felt like they rebuild it, that sense of self, they've regulated their nervous system, they've had glimmers throughout the day, they feel themselves again, then we can introduce feeling pleasure again and reconnecting to pleasure. And I don't mean, I don't start with sexual pleasure, I start with creative pleasure. So what kind of things do you take pleasure in life? And we start reintroducing that back in. Does that make sense? Is that giving you like a good framework? So again, take it really, really slow, but make sure you get that comprehension first and that really clear beginning, middle, end, because then that puts it into the past so that we can process it emotionally safely now. Yeah. So it can be, very common ones are passed out at parties or, drunk other people at parties. And then people waking up, not sure completely what's happened, but getting a sense of what has happened, or waking up and then passing out again in the middle of it. Marital rape is a very, very confusing one as well. But there's usually a lot of other, there will be a lot of other domestic abuse within that. So, depending on where they are in that journey as well. So even feeling the sense that they have any power or control over their whole life, when it comes to that marital sense, marital rape. Most of the time what we're seeing is historic. So something that's happened months, years, decades earlier. That's affecting their relationships and their sense of self now. So they're coming to you now because it's affecting their connection with someone else. So then after you're bringing that understanding and the grief through, then you're reconnecting them back into their life. Yeah. Questions, comments, other cases there? So don't do, and I know this is going to sound counterintuitive to some of you, but I'm just going to say it flat out. Don't do energy work hands on pelvic region. Heart, and gut if you're going to go there, or at the back if you really, really feel like they need shifting along that pelvis. Hold the lower back. But just allow them to feel like that space is theirs without going through the trauma and having to feel comfortable or pretend that they feel comfortable with you hovering around the pelvic region as well. Okay. Questions, comments? No. Need to shake out your shoulders, rub your shoulders. Yeah. These are the ones sometimes, with all of this, we do just need to cry sometimes for the pain that we see in the world. It's normal human compassion. It keeps your compassion open if you just allow yourself sometimes to take those few deep breaths. So everyone right now, just place your hand on your chest and your stomach and take some really big deep breaths. Okay. So I was trying to find in the course, since this is our last one, I usually do like a big Q&A. I have lots of things I could talk about within the course that I feel like I haven't dove into too well yet, but where are you guys at? Have you got questions or cases that maybe you want to talk about, or Lara?
Hi.
Hello.
Um, I'm sad it's over after this week.
No.
Um, but I mean, it's been so good. It's been, yeah, I don't know that I have any questions just now. I've liked, I was actually, as I was reading through the last few emails, one of my questions today was going to be, can we have some inner child scripts? But you have provided those. That's because I felt
And
like I was always doing the ones that we got from the course with the house and the visualization of the house and going into the house and everything, which has worked really well, but also I found it a little bit limiting after a while. So it's nice to have something a bit more updated.
yeah, and like I said, I've got 3 videos today that I'm going to add on to it today as well. So one for each script and um, yeah, one in general as well, going through that to go a little bit deeper in it.
Mhm.
But inner child work is really about giving the child a chance to express what they weren't able to express. But you want to have the adult as they are now introduce themselves to the child or be there for the child. So rather than, because the child maintained those survival mechanisms because they weren't able to get what they needed to at that time from the adults around them. And so we don't keep asking the adults that weren't able to provide it to give it to us. That's what's not working now as an adult, is that we keep on asking these people or different people to provide that for us. So we need to learn how to do it for ourselves. And so we introduce ourselves as the adult, able to hold our own inner child. So you don't re-traumatize the person by going into it as the child. Again, you have to have that adult perspective looking in, holding and keeping that child safe. So the child knows that the inner child knows that they're not alone anymore. They're not holding it on their own. When you go through something as a child, you have the perspective of a child. And so that perspective of it as your child then carries into our behaviors as adults. So they're very childlike behaviors sometimes that we go into because we still end up getting that perspective of a child, like I was abandoned, you hurt me, love isn't safe, all those kind of things that kind of come out. And then, but now as an adult, we can have a different perspective, and we know that just because our parents weren't able to provide that to us doesn't mean that we're without it, and we can ask it in different ways and we can provide it for ourselves. So that's really what we're doing with inner child work, is we're adding in, we're protecting the child, we're letting them know that they're safe now, that they're not alone, We hear the feeling that was suppressed at that time, and then we take that child. Now we're looking after it. We're looking after the child as an adult, and then you can shift into the adult perspective afterwards. Does that make sense? Yes, yeah. So curiosity will lead you there. The what I've really found with humans and all these kind of scripts that we're given and stuff is that everyone has the same images. It's this wild thing. It's exactly the same thing. It's like, really? Like, I've heard this story like a gazillion times before. It's weird how our natural healing is so similar as humans. No matter what our background, where we're at, we're all got the same way of healing. It's incredible. It blows my mind. You know, when we have grief, there's always a dark hole that we jump into. And you get to you enter in the darkness. You find the courage to enter in the darkness. You enter in the darkness. You feel like you're falling and falling and falling, and then you get to the bottom. There's still darkness. Stay with the darkness and lights will appear, and then you know that you've never actually ever been alone in your life, and all the lack of separation happens. Same with inner child work. I love you, little child. I care for you, little child. And there's this weird thing that happens. So after the child has healed, you ask them, what is the child doing now? And it's always, oh, they're off playing. Or I'm just playing with them now. It's like that innocence and bubbliness comes back. So when you get to that image and then the little child is off playing, you've hit that. Okay, that's resolved now. More questions, more depth there that you guys want from me? So my way of working with the inner child is not just what happened, but what didn't they get? How do we provide what they didn't get? So from the mother, we need love. And we learn to love ourselves based off how we receive love from our mother. So our own self-love language comes from the way that she expressed love to us and what we think we deserve.
I have
Dad
a
or dad?
question. Sorry.
Yeah, no, go. Yeah.
I have a client who can't remember any of her childhood,
Yeah.
just totally blocked. What's where do I go with that?
That's okay. Just take it slow. Usually it's because they've suppressed a certain emotion or there's been so much confusion because of almost gaslighting in a way. So they experience their own experience didn't match what they were told was happening. So for instance, I didn't
Because
feel safe, I didn't feel comfortable, but everyone around me said that was fine and that was normal. And so there's that disconnection between what I
she
felt.
said she's only got she only knows that she was neglected or abused in some way because other people that were friends with the family have filled her in
Yeah,
because they had to like talk to her mother about the neglect and stuff.
yeah.
That's the only
So, and
way
neglect is
she
a big,
knows it went on.
yeah, emotional neglect is a big reason why we block out our childhood because there's so much that we haven't been able to process.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now
we don't
she's
understand what happened. When there's no understanding, we can't see it. We don't have any story attached to it. Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
she's developed MS and now she's got a blind, I forget the name of it, but she's blind in her central vision.
yeah. I often find that MS is a lot of suppressed anger. Very, very angry. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny because she's quick to anger.
Mm, yeah, yeah. Um,
Okay.
remember with neglect, the child's going to not reach out in any way, not the one that haven't learnt to reach out, because it's not given back, like it's not reciprocal, or two, the neglect happens because the child has emotionally reacted to something. So they protect their emotions. And when you protect your emotions, you don't have any memory. It's kind of how it works. Yeah. So humans feel emotion as a way to generate movement and thought and behavior and reaction and all these kind of things. So our emotions don't just happen, they have a purpose to them. So when we've had to suppress them or keep them hidden, that inner movement doesn't happen, the connections don't happen. Does that make sense? So we need emotions to connect, to make connections, to make thoughts, to make feelings, to make action in our life, to connect with people, to know our path in life, all of that kind of thing. What's right and what's wrong for us. So the mother is where we feel love. The father is safety. Or the father figure is safety. So he keeps me safe. Am I worthy of being safe? Of being kept safe? So usual human healing goes father wound first and then hit the mother wound. And once we get to the mother wound, then we're in a good place. It's like, okay. So they might start with the mother problem, but then okay, we need to go through dad, and then you'll end up back at the mother. Or they might have already done dad healing, and then we can do mother. It's just naturally happens, so don't worry about pushing that at all. Just kind of know that when they start talking about mum or start talking about dad, you know where they're at in their healing journey. So as a child, we need different things from our parents, from each parent. So that sense of self-identity is based off how we receive their love. But as adults, we need to determine whether, because they're their own dysfunctional humans, So, are we still asking for them to fulfill those roles for us, or are we taking responsibility now for those things? And the big theme in trauma is that we're still asking the outside world. We're stuck in that cycle of still asking the outside world to fulfill those things for us. Or in hyper independence, but that's still asking the world to, you're still expecting the world not to be able to give you things. Hey, Sharon. Did you have questions or?
I probably do. Sorry, I just got up to close the door. Two things. We were told in our kinesiology course that as kinesiologists, we don't have to report. It's not mandatory. I mean, I would obviously to protect someone, but we were told it's not mandatory for kinesiologists. Is that something anyone else has heard? No? Okay.
Yeah, no, definitely report. So reporting isn't as scary as we think. Yeah, reporting doesn't mean that someone gets into trouble instantly. It creates a file these days. And the usual process is that they get a welfare check, perhaps even if they deem it welfare checkable, or it starts a file and at some point there's an accumulation of different events, and then someone goes and checks it out. The social workers these days in particular, because the they always want to keep the children with the parents as often and long as possible. How do we support the parent? That's usually first point of call, is how do we support the parent to then
Okay.
provide better care. If it can't, then there's a whole process that goes from there. But the mandatory reporting guide, there'll be one for each state depending on where you are. Just jump online, mandatory reporting guide.
Okay.
What you
Well,
do,
we're in WA, and
yeah,
I thought it was really unusual, but
yeah.
yeah, I didn't question it at the time.
You
Just
need a
my head.
working with children's check, and if you have a working with children's check,
Yeah.
then you are a mandatory reporter.
Okay.
You
Okay.
you can report if you're a neighbor. You can report if you know the child. Like, it's not, you're a mandatory one, which means that you have a legal responsibility to the child.
I always would want to, and I have actually reported instances that were suspect
Yeah.
in the past, that not on a professional level, but yeah, it was just something we were told, and I just thought that seems really odd. And I think I just put it down to kinesiologists away down the chain in,
Yeah. Yeah, no.
within the allopathic kind of alternative complementary sort of thing. We're way down the chain, so we don't have any credibility or something.
I mean, I've been a teacher and I got things wrong all the time. So,
Yeah.
I think it might have just been, yeah, told the wrong info there. Yeah, so the ones in the categories are neglect, psychological. So even if the child is self-harming, you report that. If the parent is drug affected and causing psychological harm, you report that. So emotional abuse is reportable, coercion's reportable, everything's reportable these days, really. So I've reported parents who, for their autistic son, they just weren't engaging, and he's locked in his room. Not locked, he's in his room all day, and they don't engage with him until he comes out and really needs something from someone. So neglect. Reported for parents being drug affected. I've reported for fear of further harm. So two divorced parents not communicating and therefore putting the child in a position where they were going to be in danger, not making decisions together. And therefore the child was making really bad life decisions. So no care again. Absence of care is a big one at the moment. So more than this happened, absence of care should be something you can report as well, should be something you report as well. So again, you're adding to a file. So if things ever happen, they've got more data there, they've got more information there.
Okay. Makes sense. Thank you for clarifying that.
No, that's okay. Yeah, and their services are usually pretty good. If you jump on to a phone call, you can usually, don't always get through straight away, but you can usually talk to a caseworker and say, is this reportable? New South Wales, we have a reporting guide, and it will actually, so you put in what happened, and then the system will determine whether you actually make a formal report then or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is this from the kids, the children telling you, or would you make a report from what they tell you and you deem it safe or not? Or do you also make a report if a parent's come to you and they've just, told you all this information about they taking drugs and then this and then that, will you then make a report off of that?
Yeah, usually it'll be the teenagers that tell you what's happened more than children. Children, there's always a parent in the room, so it'll be usually the parent tells me things, or if they've come in with a carer, the carer will tell me.
Mhm.
Yeah. So things like, or a child has been to their other parent, if the parents are divorced and then come home and said that this happened, then yeah, then the other parent will tell you. And sometimes they don't make a big deal out of it. They're just, confused or used to it or normalized it. Um,
And if you're having a session with just the parent and they're telling you all of this, do you say to them, look, I have to report this, or do you just not tell them?
there have been cases where it's dangerous to report it at that time because they're in the middle of a court process, or there's certain cases where, yeah, you're aware that if the person the parent or carer who has done the abuse, it'll make things worse because things like court orders will mean that the child has to be dropped off to an unsafe parent. But because these things take so long to action, so you've made a report, but the child is still having to go to that parent's place before then protective services get involved. It can be a bit dicey. Or the child needs to feel safe as well, that nothing will happen. So this is the way I explain it to the child. Look, this isn't okay. This isn't okay. And, there's a whole system out there that protects children. And so what we do is we let them know what's happening. And that's all it does. It just lets them know what's happening. So very rarely does the I'll call it perpetrator, actually get a knock on the door or something. But what it means is that there's a paper trail if things ever get worse or something. So you're being kept safe from behind the scenes. That's the way I describe it to them. Has anybody else got any other comments or experiences there that they want to share? Yeah. I live though so when I was in the Northern Beach, that's demographic as well. When I lived in the Northern Beaches, it was a lot more neglect stuff that I was reporting, whereas here, it's a lot more abuse. So, you demographically, you'll tend to get certain things in different areas as well. I live in a high intergenerational trauma area as well. So most kids are already on the system. Yeah. Heavy one today, guys. Sorry. But you can see how we just don't know what's about to turn up in clinic. And that's not to said to scare you, but this is why courses like this are so, so important, because we learn all our techniques and procedures in college, but then we get out into the real world and they're real human beings with big things. And hopefully this space can make you feel a little bit safer with just having a place to come and talk to about it as well. It's where I'll spruik the apprenticeship as well, because we have these weekly supervision hours as well, and that ongoing support, so that whatever comes through in clinic, you've got that safe place to come to me and say, all right, this is going on. Yeah, what should I do? We just don't, unfortunately, we don't have that in our industry, which is just blows my mind, It's just fluffed over. Yeah. All right. Thoughts, feelings, everything about the course going forward? Anyone wanting to know something in particular before they go forth into clinic, or something that they've been stuck on before? Go, please. Yeah.
Sorry, when you were talking about before, the psychologists and counselors sending you their family, or that, how did you build that relationship with them in the first place?
So one social worker I had coffee with, and we ended up in like a really, I held a women's circle for practitioners in the area. Yeah. And so like we got to know each other really, really well there. Psychologist, she started to come to see me. We worked through her stuff, and so then she started. Um, and then other times it's just a message. Hey, do you want to catch up for coffee? Once I know, once people you trust each other, you don't have to. Most of the times I'm having coffee with another practitioner. We're not talking about what we do. We're talking about who we are as people. Like it's, what do you like? What you don't you like? It's a first date. So yeah, so it's just getting to know each other, and the more you get to know each other, you get a feel of what kind of person they are, whether they're trustworthy, all that kind of stuff. So it goes from that. Other referrals from their clients as well. Yeah, they hear your name enough and they get curious, and they come in. Or they send their kids in to see you. Yeah. Quite a few psychologists own children because they don't trust any of the other professionals. Same way I don't trust any other kinesiologist with my kids. It's like, yeah. Yeah. And take them to other professionals. Yeah. So I guess the big thing is then with life after trauma, the whole course is that once you've gotten through that understanding, feeling stage, then we're rebuilding their life again. That's the fun part. That's the part where you can go, once I've reached that space of complete loneliness and pain, and often after the suicidal point, or just, you can just feel it in their whole sense. Like, and there's actually like a bit of a moment that they start to come out of it and they become afraid that you're just going to keep digging up the past again. And it's like that real reassurance that no, that's done now. When we look back on it, it'll be from a whole new perspective. And sometimes you'll go into it and feel it a little bit and come out of it, but it won't be big and hard and all those secrets up and out anymore. It'll be shorter and sweeter. And so the next part really is about learning how to receive love, learning who you are again, learning what you like, what you don't like, learning to, in a marriage or in a relationship, rebuilding a whole new part of, a whole new relationship on that. They will often go through a phase of like, should I leave my husband or wife or not? It's like, no, you don't have to. You can just rebuild the relationship from there. Sometimes they do have to leave, but just giving them sometimes that reassurance that no, most long-term marriages go through different sections, and it might be rough for a while, and then you relearn communication styles. So always try it first and then leave. I feel like we're better these days, but there was like a little bit a while back, and it felt really like, just leave, that kind of energy all the time. But I think so, just in the collective, I think that the generations coming through with kids now, they've often come from separated homes themselves, and so they have more desire to keep the family together. So if they're safe, it's just a matter of learning communication styles again, and learning to, that's where the mummy or daddy issues come in as well, because if we're expecting our partner to provide to us what our parent didn't give, then we need to do the inner child work. Yeah, so that we can give that to ourselves and stop expecting that from our partnership. And they're going to start probably going through a phase where they cut out different friendships and want to connect more with different other people. So there is often a phase of loneliness after trauma healing, because it's like, well, who do I actually want in my life now? I'm not just connecting with people out of survival. I'm connecting with people out of who actually really builds me up. So allowing them that space of dating, I call it dating your friends again, learning to trust them again and figuring out who to trust and not to trust, and from a whole different perspective, from an adult perspective. You'll often get like a career change or inspiration come through. Yeah, it's a really lovely next phase, and that one's the lifetime forward, it's like, okay, then they're coming back and just saying, all right, I've got this issue popping up in life, let's deal with that and let's move on. But yeah, you've by that stage, they're breaking free of their addictive patterns or their survival patterns and whatever else. And that is life after trauma. Feedback, questions, anything else?
Can you hear me, Emma?
Yes, hello.
Hello. I was just wondering, when you have someone on the table and they do the big revelation sort of towards the end of the session, and you've got someone booked afterwards, or if you had someone booked or you didn't, what would you do? If you had no one booked, would you let it
Stop
go?
asking questions 15 minutes before the end of the session.
Okay.
No more questions after 15 minutes, like when you've got 15 minutes to go. So your responsibility is to keep an eye on that clock. Don't keep opening stuff up with 15 minutes to go. Find a way to wrap that up and then book them in for the next session.
I was just in our advanced diploma, we were assigned 8 clients to do 6 sessions on them, and 2 of them told me, like at the very last moments, details about sexual trauma, and I couldn't do anything with it anyway because that was the actual last session. So I guess for them it was like they're relaxed, they know they're not going to actually have to go further with it, but they told me anyway, and it seemed like,
well, often they've sat on it the whole session and then they get to the end, they're like, oh shit, I need to say it. Like, I just need to say it. So they've thought about it beforehand. So I will say, okay, let's book you in really soon.
Except I couldn't.
Within a couple of days or next week. And thank you so much for telling me. Let's let that settle. Telling me is a really, really, really big step.
Mm-hmm.
And often what happens once they tell you, so you need to kind of be aware, sometimes what can happen, just telling me is such a big step that your nervous system is going to have to process this. And so what might come up is the feelings, grief, anger, shame, all of these things can come up with what you've just said. So I want you to just let those feelings come up. Don't pay them too much attention yet. You don't need to go into them too much yet. But when you come back next session, we'll see where things are sitting, see where things are lying, and we'll go from there.
Okay. And out of curiosity, do you have, how long are your sessions, and do you change them for certain types of work?
So in my advanced kin course, we had this big discussion. So, okay, so keep in mind, I've seen thousands of clients.
Yeah.
So, and I've been working for 18 years. So my process, my database, I call it my database in my head of where we're at, where we're going, what's going to be said, like what I need to say, do to kind of do things is quick. Yeah. So I found a few years ago, I found that, so I was doing 1.5 sessions first session and an hour session for 15, 16 years. And then I found that I was getting bored in sessions. So that was number 1. 2, I needed to up my prices, but I live in a low socioeconomic area. So my strategy there was to shorten my sessions and see more clients a day. Also
Okay.
take in mind that I had spent years seeing 60 clients a week. So, and I was at that state, like now I only see maybe 20 clients a week. So it's a big drop for me. But for some people, 20 clients a week's massive. So it depends on what your nervous system can contain as well. But now my sessions are 45 minutes long, all of them, flat out.
Okay. Yeah.
But in saying that, I am thinking about shifting that up. I don't know, yeah, we'll see. But yeah. So it's what you've got to remember when you're seeing people back to back is that it's a big emotional space for you to it's a roller coaster, right? So hi, how are you? Boom, deep grief, anger. Bring them back up, and then you start again. Hi, how are you doing? So you've got to get that nervous system resilience and emotional resilience to do that yourself. So if you need a longer session to go through that process, then do a longer session. If you're feeling like you've got the experience and the awareness and expertise and everything to do it quickly, then do it quickly. You just got to trust yourself there.
Well, if I'm doing pure kinesiology from a functional kinesiology point of view and using all the books,
Yeah,
that you can get through an hour and a quarter or something, but it's full on. It really is full on using the books. If it's just energy stuff, well, yeah, it just depends what comes up. It doesn't have to be as long. I find the books, because I've just graduated from the advanced course and it's all book based. So, and I'm trying to work out how to put my energy healing stuff, meld it into
what I'll say is that whatever we're taught, it's a scaffolding.
Oh,
So
you definitely.
in that, like, we're given it and it supports us, but then once our building's built, once you've got the certificate, you get to take that scaffolding down and find your own way of working. Yeah.
Yeah, I know I will. It's just
Yeah.
working through it and experimenting and everything, and
Yeah.
it's really more about how I see myself and how I want to market myself and project myself, but I haven't quite got that self-identity yet in that
So
field.
join the apprenticeship, because we that's what the apprenticeship is for, is taking you from college into how you practice and feeling confident in practice.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Becky. The apprenticeship is awesome for this. Thank you. Yeah. Hey, Sarah.
I'm just going to chime in there. I feel like I need to, and I feel like you deserve it, Em. So, my words for you, Sharon, and anyone else that might be in a similar situation is Emma has so much support available, whether you do a one-on-one mentorship with her, or because I know you won't want to advertise yourself, Em, because that's not your style.
I'm getting it.
Or the apprenticeship. Like I've taken advantage of M's services and I can't recommend them highly enough. Just helps you navigate yourself through those processes and have that support along the way. And just the regular teachings, the different perspectives, just having come back from the advanced kin course, just the connection with other practitioners is just, you don't realise how I don't know what the word is, beneficial, I suppose.
It's such a lonely industry once you leave.
Yeah, and how enriching it can be. Yeah. Sharing you're talking to like-minded people. We're all completely different, but at the same time, we're in the same industry. So, have a look at what M has, because I just think it's a very valuable thing that we could all share in.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Hey, Danny, what were you going to say before?
I was just going to ask, with the body work, you mentioned last week that you like to start with the feet and get a read on the person generally, and then move up the body. I tend to start at the head. Is there any problem with going down the body?
No,
just
no, not at
personal
all.
preference, because for quite some time I work on the head and neck and everything, and then go into the session and, you know, in terms of the body work and do
The worst
some
thing a
breathing.
practitioner can do is try and do something that doesn't feel comfortable for them.
Yeah. I was just wondering if, like, because
Yeah.
I just had a little bit of a practice during the week, and I started at the feet, and I'm thinking, oh, I think I prefer the head.
I know. Look, if
No, so
yeah,
it's
you can
just, it's
feel
all
it from the
good.
practitioner if they're doing something that they don't, you know, and they're trying to force it, that doesn't feel right. So
Yeah,
if you feel comfortable doing it, then that's going to be such a more beautiful space than following something I taught. So yeah.
yeah, no, perfect. Just
Yeah.
all good.
Feel free to break my rules. It's all good. Hey, Lara.
Oh my God, my thing has been on this whole time. Sorry.
No, all good. You didn't make any funny noises. It's all good.
This is just a comment. It's funny. Like one of my longest clients, she's amazing. When I was in Sydney, she was one of my super referrers, and we got so far together. And what I guess one of her a little bit why is because she's, you know, has that I need to be a good girl sort of mentality, and we've spoken about that in her childhood, that she will do the homework, and whatever you say, you know, she'll really apply, like she'll do all of the nervous system regulation exercises. She just does it all. But anyway, she always has said to me since I've left Sydney, oh my God, I just miss your touch and I miss you and like you touching me. But with her, I never did really any of the kinesiology balances.
Mm-hmm.
Was literally just starting with the feet and just holding her and just, you know, just very soothing, I guess, touch, like what you've been talking about. But to her, that's what she remembers, and that's what she loves, and that's what she found helped her so much in her body. So it's quite interesting, you know, when I was reflecting back on that, I was like, wow, funny, because and you feel like you're not really doing anything, but to them it is so beneficial to just be held in such a nurturing
When you
kind.
get it done, it's just like, oh, I remember why this is so big. The other thing I will say here, and it's always controversial, is whether to hug your clients or not. And it, you know, just kind of triggered me because most people don't say to me, I miss your sessions. They say, I miss your hugs. So, yeah, so I always hug after a session. It feels natural to me, it feels normal, even though I'm short and they can be tall, it can be really awkward. I always say, would you like, you know, how would you feel about a hug or something like that? And after you've been through that much vulnerability, just to be held, like, it's just so beautiful. And as the person giving the hug, you're not doing it in a poor you. You're just saying like, I see you, I feel you, like it's going to be okay. And then I always end a session with, be nice to yourself, please. You know, so yeah, that's how I end, but find like a nice natural way to kind of end a session as well. That's really important. And that consistency in how you end a session is really, really important with trauma as well. That's probably how I'll end it here. Hey, Becky.
Quick question in regards to kind of what Sharon was talking about of, you know, at the very end of the session, someone just opening up this Pandora's box. I find a lot of people with deep traumas are wanting to tell someone, and if they know that they don't have to see you again or anyone again, they're like, bleh, and they leave it with you and walk away. Is that what?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it can be both. Yeah. So most of the time I found that they amp themselves up for a few sessions, or for a while. They amp themselves up when they're booking the session, when they're coming in, and then the first session might come and they haven't found the words or how to word it properly, or saying the words is too much. And so, you know, they're often like holding on to it for such a long time. Anyway, it's not just like, oh, this is what happened. It's like, oh, I haven't said it and I need to say it. It's more that pressure that they put on themselves to say it out loud. So just saying it is such a big moment for them. We don't need to stop and go into that trauma at that stage, because the trauma is saying it. So just holding that space and acknowledging it and thanking them. That response that you get, that you have to it, is so important at that time, because what they've probably done as well is kept it to the end of the session in order to test how you react. And if you react badly, then they can be out of there. If you don't, then they can, and they can know that, okay, I'm safe to talk about it.
Thanks, Sam.
That's okay. All right. There we go. There we go, guys. All done, all finished. So you've got the course there. Keep going through it. Whatever you need, I'm here.
Thanks, Em.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
So
Em.
Thank
See
you.
you guys later. Thank you. Thank you all for joining me.
Thanks, Emma.
Bye.
Ciao.